And I think that what has happened is particularly serious, not only because of the number of victims that it caused, but because of the indications that exist that this was triggered, I would say, in advance of the normal way to trigger these things, because there was a risk of this being discovered. Because obviously the logic of making all these devices explode is to do it as a preemptive strike before a major military operation. So, as important as the event in itself is the indication that this event confirms that there is a serious risk of a dramatic escalation in Lebanon, and everything must be done to avoid that escalation.
Thank you.
Indeed, I think it's very important that there is an effective control of civilian objects, not to weaponize civilian objects. That should be a rule that everywhere in the world governments should be able to implement. The link of what's happening in Lebanon with what's happening in Gaza is obvious since the beginning. I mean, the Hezbollah has been very clear in saying that it has launched its operations because of what's happening in Gaza, and that it will stop when there will be a ceasefire in Gaza.
Secrétaire-Général, merci Steph. Merci pour cette conférence de presse. Karine Houghton pour...
But I have to say I'm deeply frustrated with the fact that the present situation is such that the two parties feel that they can do whatever they want, that nothing will happen to them. And this is the situation of impunity that unfortunately we see in other parts of the world. The level of death and destruction that we witness in Gaza is by far the largest that I've ever seen when in my mandate as Secretary-General, and that the violations of international humanitarian law are totally unacceptable. I condemned as I did, and I feel that that condemnation was essential, the terror attacks by Hamas, but what's happening today in Gaza is totally unacceptable, and I follow with a lot of interest the work of the international courts in this regard.
Follow-up. You say you have no illusion, but you have a moral authority.
Global institutions and frameworks are today totally inadequate to deal with these complex and even existential challenges. And it's no great surprise. Those institutions were born in a bygone era for a bygone world. So many of the challenges that we face today were not on the radar 80 years ago when our multilateral institutions were born.
And Association for this press conference. Is always great to see you. My question is...
We cannot know precisely what the future holds, but we don't need a crystal ball to see that 21st century challenges require problem-solving mechanisms that are more effective, networked, and inclusive. That serious power imbalances in global institutions must be adjusted and updated, and that our institutions must draw on the expertise and representation of all of humanity. Change will not happen overnight, but it can start today.